Hello there. I'm Callum. It's currently 11:21. I have school tomorrow, but guess what? I don't care. So you clicked on this video to know what its title is. Why you should and shouldn't vote for Jing Yuan. It's gonna be the next banner, the next warp, 5-star, limited, erudition, lightning, etc. So you might think he's an AoE DPS, like Starble, right? Like he does AoE, but his damage kind of in the trash. So as you can see, if you've already paid attention on the screen, I have Excel open. I did this earlier today, and it's math. It's not complex. It's middle school math, honestly, but it's a lot of it. It's just, a lot of numbers, a lot of bunga bungas. But yeah, I can tell you this much. Before you think his damage is mediocre, it's not. It's the second best single target damage in the game. I don't have much more to say about that, except he lacks consistency. So while I say that, I have to put an asterisk on it, being he lacks consistency, which is the first reason I'm going to give you. In theory, not to pull him. If you're going to be like, I want my character to do this much damage, always like this, and you don't want to have feelings of, no, well, like either crit, but like this is outside of crit, because crit always exists. There's few characters that can ignore crit. Yeah, there's Yuan who can ignore crit, but that's like an exception. But outside of that, the big problem is that, first of all, he's relying on Bronya, like heavily, and not everyone has Bronya. Like maybe eventually everyone will have Bronya. Most of us have done 100 pulls on standard already from the free pulls. But even then, some people might not pick her. Some people it's gonna take at least a year or two for us to get that 5-star. I personally have been lucky and gotten Bronya like pretty early, 17 in fact on standard. My first 5-star was Belt. So that's why I did this spreadsheet in the first place, because I was curious how he's with Bronya, because that's not an assumption most numbers out there have made. And yes, I realized he's pretty reliant on Bronya. If you're wondering why, it's his stacks. He relies on him. You can see there's multiple stacks, you can see the damage rise. That's because what makes Jing Yuan great is his talent, which is Lightning, which is a separate character in a sense, but he gains stacks off of actions that Jing Yuan does. So he starts with 3 stacks, just 3 hits basically, and then with an E, if he uses skill, he gains 2 stacks, and with his ult, he gains 3 stacks. And as you know, Bronya has pretty special thing is you can use her own elemental skill. Excuse me there, her own skill, and it can allow your other character to have their turn immediately before anything else happens. Which yes means that Jing Yuan can use his skill twice. Which means yes, you'll have an average of 7 stacks, which is why this is what I put here. 7 stacks with lightning. However, if you don't, you only have 5 stacks, and I can show you, this is not gonna change, but I can show you what 5 stacks does. Let me just undo that. You can see that that's a 10,000 damage loss for this one attack. 10,000 damage. That's like as much as ultimate. Oh, by the way, ignore this. This is like messed up. Like I should delete this. Because like I was doing his normal attacks, but then I realized that like I don't need to do them because they don't matter. This is 200% is his ultimate. Like you're basically losing as much damage as if you didn't have your ult in that sense. So you realize, wow, that's pretty freaking important. On top of not having Bronya, the thing is, as far as I'm aware, Lightning Lord cannot snapshot the buff that Jing Yuan has. Reason being that Jing Yuan and Lightning Lord don't share their turns, and Bronya's skill buff only stays for a turn. So you lose it, and there you go. You don't have the buff anymore, and thus that Lightning Lord loses that same buff. However, it's not all doom and gloom. Bronya's ult, which is also really great. I've calculated this all here, by the way. That's why I've written this down, but we'll get to that. But if you use Bronya's ultimate, it's gonna work on Lightning Lord, no problem. The crit damage and the attack percent. So yeah, I also assume that the player in question has Tingyun at E0. Simple reason being, she's on his warp. If you don't get her, tough luck, I guess, but I kind of expect most players that pull for Jing Yuan, like 70-80 pulls, are bound to get at least a Tingyun. And if you don't, there's the monthly shop, which is likely to have Tingyun eventually. So I'm personally saving in case that does happen to me, I don't get her. Because Tingyun, some people, I want to mention this real quick. Some people claim that like Tingyun is a cheapo Bronya or something like that, just because they look at the kits and say, oh, attack percent, oh, damage percent. But no, that's not the fucking case. Okay, I'm sorry. It's not the case, because they're they work really well together actually. Main reason being, again, more buffs the better, but also because Ting Yun gives energy, and like 50 on base and 60 with their Eidolons, which is pretty big, because energy is ult, and ult is big damage, and big damage is the point of the game. And yeah, you can use her in place of Bronya theoretically for like some attacks, like I don't know if you're gonna use Celi's ult or something, but because of the way they work, you can use Ting Yun's ult, like you can use her skill because that has a long duration like Bronya's buffs, and then you can use her ult, and you can get to Bronya, do the skill, and then the ult, and then you can stack it all together pretty cleanly. They don't really collide, which is why I would say use them together if you have them. But assuming you have both of them, they're pretty big for him, because these are both buffs that stick around long enough for in order to use them. And while we don't have that many buffs that are like one turn limited right now, like as far as I can think of, but there are a few, like there are a few with no major ones. But if we were to get those like one turn major buffs, more like in line with Bronya's skill, Light Lord couldn't use them. Alright, I'm gonna stop it here because you've probably realized first I'm probably being pretty negative for some people, but also talking your head off. So essentially what it means is he's so restricted in team building. I can remove the buffs, but I'm not going to here because it's kind of scary to see how much damage he loses. But he does. He relies on the buffs. But I can explain why, and then I'm gonna be over with it. The reason is that he's what I like to call, what I've adopted to call, a spoon character. There's essentially two types of characters in these games. You have the vacuum cleaner character and the spoon character. I can give you an analogy here for the analogy. Sealy is a vacuum cleaner character with their ult. It's a big attack that happens once in a while, and boom, it does big damage when it has the buffs. You know, you have to buff that specific attack as well. It's one turn only as well, so it can use the one turn buffs, like I said. While Jing Yuan is a spoon character. This being the fact that his talent always occurs every turn, and it hits multiple times. It hits 10 times, a max of 10 times. If it hits once, which it never does, it has at least 3 times, it's like 66%, which is a joke. If that was to happen, if that was actually a case you could run into, you can see this 5,000 damage. His skill and his ult just do more innately. So you can see his one hit is a joke, basically. But obviously that's why he hit a lot of times, but that means you need to crit a lot. Because you need to crit every single attack, which also can be good and bad. If you do crit one big attack, then your crit rate is very much you do it or you don't. Well, with multiple attacks, you can not crit one of these, and you're not gonna die, basically. If you, say you have 10 stacks and 9 of them crit, 1 doesn't, he's not done for, which is really nice, especially with, RNG, and you don't want to reset and stuff. So that's why his buffs matter. That's a simple reason why I focus so much on it, because, first of all, he is backloaded. He doesn't do the damage himself, per se. On top of that, he hits a lot, so he wants, buffs that affect every single hit in a decent way. That's the negatives, basically. TLDR, you need Ting Yun and Bronya. Your third slot can be anything you want. It can be a shielder, it can be a healer. I personally go Natasha for the cleanses, extra cleanses. But yeah, that's your team building. You don't have much freedom, but that's pretty much expected. Now to the positives. I bet you were waiting for those. Positive. As you can look at these numbers, they're freaking high. This is 7 stacks, by the way. So 7 stacks is the minimum you get with Bronya, which is decently high. You can see that's 281,000. That's a lot. It is higher. Well, let me just pop this open. Here we go. I had this open. So let's look at this here. So this is with 5 stacks. That's why it says that this is the bare minimum you can expect, which makes sense. So that's the number. But this is all you get. There's not much option to change it. So that's why I took it in my own hands. But as you can see, this is rivaling Yan Qing's damage over 8 turns. And that's if he doesn't get hit. So he has his own RNG here. Your RNG is just crit, because 7 stacks you're innately gonna get. There is no question. Unless you have actual SP management problems, which I don't think you'll have, because Ting Yun can buff slash 3 turns. You can get a skill point from her turn, and another skill point from Natasha's turn, because you're just gonna use your ult to heal. That's enough to sustain. Roughly should be enough to sustain. I'm not sure. I haven't played it. I'm going off of that assumption, and if not, there is some ways you can get around that, which is the healer relic set, which gives 1 SP at the start of the turn. But yeah, as you can see, he rivals a single target DPS, a single target carry, while he has his AoE, which in this case, let's see, yeah, this is 7 stacks. on like one hit, like he does basically 18k damage around him at 7 stacks. Like, that's most of the HP pool of most enemies. You can go try it. Like, it's kind of wild. By the way, this is assuming he's level 80 and the enemies are level 80 as well. So there is a pretty big damage you're getting here from him. He's a true carry. Like, that's the thing. He's supposed to be a reduction and AoE, but most of his, like, his biggest damage is not only single target, but he also delivers the highest AoE damage. Like, in the sense that it also doesn't care. He does not care if you, like, get kills and stuff. It'll just happen. You don't need to work for it, like with Sealy, where you need to get kind of lucky that you kill every enemy in one E to be AoE. Otherwise, you just single target as you're supposed to be. And now, I'm going to be really optimistic and claim, boom, you're the fucking god gamer. You have the ult. You have Jing Yuan's ult every turn. You have endless skill points. Like, I'm just assuming this. This is fucking feels like god theory crafting. You go times, but no. You go 10 stacks. Wait, bro. I screwed out 1 second. You take this, you put it down here, enter. Yeah, this is the impossible, basically. But if you were to somehow get 10 stacks for 8 turns, which is what this thing assumes, you can just see it here. 8 turns of in-game time. So that's bigger than Sealy's damage. It's bigger than most characters. So obviously this is not real. This is not. It's much lower. This is the opposite of what is happening here. But like, this is the lowest. This is the highest you could get. So I think maybe they might add a character, a mode that gives you like endless ults or something. And that point, yes, this could happen. This is realistic. But yeah, he has a lot of fucking damage for being an AoE DPS. That's the good news. The other good news, obviously not particularly related to it, but related to the time frame he's coming out in, which is that his current upcoming warp, assuming it's just like the Sealy's warp, which was based off of the beta version, is freaking insane. Having Tingyun and Sasang is crazy. You might be like, why do I need Tingyun if I'm getting Jing Yuan? I have a DPS, right? I have a carry. Well, yes and no, because you kind of need a second half. And while yes, for a second team, for Forgotten Hall, you can use Dan Heng. Wind isn't always what you want. You might want physical. And there you go. Sasang. Shan. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say Sasang. It's from my Honkai day. Alright. Chicken Girl can do big damage for that when you need physical. So that's nice as well. March 7th being there is better than nothing. It's okay. Because her add-ons are decent. You know, if you get her E6, which you kind of rip, because you'd rather want E6 Tingyun, but if you do, you get healing, which is pretty neat, because then she can somewhat be like a solo safety option, though that's copium, honestly. It's not gonna work out, but can be, that's all I'm saying. So, there you go, you have a great, so, say you want to pull for her. What do you get? You get a great warp, you get a very good character, you know? Okay, by the way, this is based off the Battle Pass weapon. It's a minimal damage loss if you go for the breakfast, the free weapon. It's a minimal damage loss, but I calculate with this because that's what I'm gonna go get. I about the battle pass. But like the damage, I don't know. Okay, so let's just go back to the realistic one. 7 stacks, the most realistic with Bronya, because that's what I'm assuming here. Like, yeah, this is like 281,000. It might be like 275,000. You know, and that's the thing. Like, you're not losing that damage from the weapon, just so you know. Somebody saw this and is worried. But like, you get big damage. The gearing is pretty simple. Like, that's the thing. You get a great warp and you get a great character through it. Obviously, that's if you look at 1.0. 1.1 looks to be a banger. Silver Wolf is going to be decent in quantum teams for now, and might have a place in other teams in the future. Which we're like, again, I've had people say Silver Wolf doesn't look that good outside of quantum teams. I've heard some people say she's going to let us brute force the whole game. It's very out there. But the other character in 1.1, Lucha, Auto Apocalypse, but now in Star Rail, is kind of cracked as a healer. Like, Bailu is getting a run for her money with him. Like, looking at his kid, he's an attack scaling healer. His heals are pretty strong. He cleanses. He has resistance to freeze and stuff, which is pretty big, pretty freaking big. It's 70% on base, which you can stack in his weapon. There's like a healer weapon, a harmony weapon, abundance weapon that gives like 16 at super imposition 1 and like 36% at like S5, which is max. Like, that point you cannot get affected, I think, by any effects, freeze or whatever, which is again insane because that just means you can focus on healing. So yes, you're kind of like in a dilemma there. Do I pull a good carry? So like illustrating here. Do I pull a good carry, or do I pull these great looking supports? And my advice for you is going to be, you can take it if you or not, is look at your own account. Your 4 stars really matter. I'm going to open the star earlier. I got it open just in case. So I'm in this ship right now. So look at my account first. I guess for my account first. I have Braun, as you can see. I have Natasha, and I've Dunhang, my main carry right now. The reason being, if you look at my characters, you'll realize, yes, I have Braun, yes, I have Veld, but outside of that, my account is kind of a joke. You know, I have Hook, which yes is a carry, but I'm rejecting building her as long as I can. So we don't even count her existing. Hertha, Kuru is a meme. She got nerfed too hard, and I have her fucking E3, so end my existence basically at that point. RNG Hell, you know, Serval's okay, but I'm not building until like, I don't know, until like the rest of my characters are built. March 7th is Shielder, like, yeah, again, as you can see, I don't have a carry in my case. So in my case, for example, it might actually be worth going for Jing because, wow, I need a second team, because I can do something with Asta and Veld, and then I can put, like, I don't know, Dunhang in there, and then put, like, Jing instead, and then mess around, cook something, get a good meal ready, clear Forgotten Hall, get to Memory of Chaos, you know. Sure, that's the thing. So in my case, it might be worth going for. But if you, for example, already have, like, let's say, Susang, sorry again for saying that, like, it's pronounced wrong, Shuchang, whatever. If you have her, if you have, like, wait, let me open up the archive, I don't know who exactly exists in this game. Again, yeah, if you have, like, again, you already have Tingyun, at least on E0. You have Shuhang, you have, like, Hella, I don't know, and you have, like, I don't know, a few Aelons of Dunhang somehow, or, like, you know, or you have Yanqing, you know? If you have these characters like Yanqing, Tingyun, Soshang, I don't know, maybe a few Aelons on, I don't know. Yeah, you have Bronya as well. Like, then the question does become, maybe why not save? Because the people I've talked to who are also, like, pretty intelligent about this game, they've said that going for 4-star carries for now, which is like Shuhang, like 4-star carry, is more, staying with these is more worth it if it means you get good supports, because supports are a bit hard to power creep. Like, for example, let's go Luocha, let's go Autumn. It's kind of hard to power creep a guy if he heals you full at level 80, unless you increase the level cap, unless you make characters be like 1 HP, but even then if he heals enough to get you to almost full HP, it doesn't matter, right? A healer is hard to power creep. Yeah, you can add features on top of them, but like, Luocha already has a lot of stuff in his kit, you know? If they add more, we're reaching actual power creep, which I would be surprised if we actually power creep. Because, like, Natasha's already full of good stuff, you know? So, like, look at her here. She has, like, cleanse and stuff, you know that. You're a smart fella, you know that. And, like, even she is already this full. And, like, Lucha's just her, but better, like I said. So, if you pull him, for example, you're with a more safe option. But if you, like, that's good, you have a healer now. But if you have no damage, if you have nothing else except the healer, good healer, that's not good for your account, you know? So then, again, the question would be maybe pull Tingyun. Pull Tingyun and Jing Yuan. Because there you go, you have a competent team now. And you can try to go for the other characters in 1.1. So that's it. I'm done. I've told you the positives and negatives. I hope it was understandable. But yeah, another TLDR, TLDW, if you didn't watch, if you're here for some reason at the very end, is if you have an account with almost all 4 stars, if you have Susang, if you have some Aidlons and some supports and stuff, you know, if you have Bronya already, you know, or maybe if you already have Tingyun, maybe consider skipping him, or probably skip him, skip Jingwen. If you have an already built Dunhang and Serval and Susang. But if you don't, if your account might be lacking some very important damage units, maybe some buffers, maybe another competent shielder when your fire MC is already being used, then I would say probably look towards pulling on Jingwen's banner, Warp. Because again, even if you don't get him, you get Tingyun. It's busted and awesome. You get Shushang, which is also awesome. So there you go. That's my advice. With that said, have a great day, great evening, great life. Good luck saving, good luck pulling. I hope you win your 50-50s when you want to win them. I hope you get the 4 stars you want. With that said, thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a great day.